Namandals, 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 Namandals. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Sensei, for introducing me. It's a great honor for me to be invited here every year. And next year I'm coming back to conduct seminar. It's a tremendous honor for me. And first I want to thank Reverend Hanada and your board for inviting me here. I've known Sensei a long time, about 35 years, I think. Oh, 35 years. Actually, we met in Japan first time. I happened to be in Japan, and Hanada Sensei came to study in Japan, 35 years ago. And probably he was 35 pounds lighter. Maybe 20 pounds. I'm kind of exaggerating. And before I talk, I want to say something else. Sensei mentioned that temperature was in 90s, in Orange County. And probably Mark Twain said, he said, the coldest winter I experienced in my life is a summer in San Francisco. And if I describe in similar way, that heat in Santa Ana today, the warmest summer I ever experienced in my life is March in Orange County. It's very warm here. I live in Berkeley, and it's nice temperature there. And in recent years, my wife and I go to Japan about 2 or 3 months. Every year, we go there. And I'm asked to give some lectures at various places in Japan. And it's so nice to go there. Every time I go there, I make new Dharma friends. That's so exciting. But going to Japan is a kind of occupational hazard, kind of dangerous to my health, because I tend to overeat. Overeat. Japan has so many good food. Sushi, tempura, and Kobe beef. And probably you don't know this, but Japanese cream puffs are best. Yeah, if you have a chance to eat it, I'm sure you get addicted to it. So anyway, so delicious. So I eat the things my doctor tells me don't eat. And usually I get to about 3 pounds. During 2 months, I stay there, 2 or 3 pounds, but my wife gets more pounds, maybe 3 or 4 pounds. But anyway, I didn't come here to talk about my trip to Japan. And this morning, not this morning, this afternoon, and I want to talk about the emptiness of the self-power and the greatness of the other power in observing the O-Higan service. Actually, Carol gave you a better explanation of the O-Higan, better explanation than I can give. So I don't talk about the meaning of O-Higan itself, but the related subject. Okay? I want to talk about the self-power and other power. These two are the very important concepts in Jodo Shinshu, in the tradition. And Jodo Shinshu teaches us that self-power is an illusion, okay, an illusion, and other power is reality, okay, reality. Self-power means the wrong view that we can exist all by ourselves. Self-power is an overestimation of self's abilities. But the other power means the right view that all things are interdependent, and other power means the right view that we exist because of the support of things and people that exist outside us. To show the specific differences between self-power and other power, let me talk about two types of students, Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A and Mr. B both have just received the same degree, same PhD degree in science. But the ways they think about their achievement are totally different. Mr. A thinks this way: I've received the PhD degree because I worked hard. I did it all by myself. I can take all credit for my achievement. That's how Mr. A thinks about his achievement. But Mr. B is a little different. He thinks, I've received the PhD degree because many things and people have helped me. I'm so fortunate to attend a nice school. I was so fortunate to have wonderful teachers and books and materials. I'm so fortunate to have many people encouraging me. My parents, friends encouraged me. So I owe this achievement to all the things and people I encountered. So that's the way Mr. B thinks about his achievement. So Mr. A thinks that he can take all credit for his achievement, but Mr. B thinks that he owes so much to many things and people. We can call Mr. A man of self-power, and Mr. B a man of the other power. Mr. A is overestimating his own abilities. He is ignorant of the fact that he is supported by many things and people. But Mr. B knows the fact that he is supported by many things and people. So this afternoon, I want to talk about our hands as a symbol of our self-power. We use our hands, and so I use our own hands as a symbol of self-power. We usually think that our own hands can do everything. We usually see, we can see only our hands, and we don't see the hands of other people that are actually supporting us. If we live our lives by trusting our own hands alone, such a life is called the life that is based on the self-power. But the reality is such that we cannot live our lives by ourselves. We are actually being supported by many hands, by the invisible hands of many people. If we live our lives by appreciating those invisible hands that are supporting us, such a life is called the life that is based on the other power. Simply because we have too much confidence in our own hands, in our own abilities, we cannot appreciate the hands of other people. Simply because we have too much of our hands, too much of our self-power, we cannot see the other power, the existence of other people's hands. Now, I want to give you two stories in which we can see the emptiness of the power of our hands and the greatness of the other power of the hands of other people. First, let me talk about my experience. I had this experience about 35 years ago. No, 35 years ago, my wife and I moved from Chicago to Berkeley. Actually, initially, I came to Chicago and studied Buddhism there. Okay? So the IBS hired me. So 35 years ago, but 1 month before we moved, I broke my 2 elbows on Chicago street. See, if you know Chicago, anything could happen on the Chicago street. Many people say, "Oh, you had an car accident?" No, I was just walking on the sidewalk, and there was iron bar stretching or something like this, and tripped over, and I fell down like this, both elbows like boxer, protected me, fell down and landed, with 2 elbows. These 2 elbows are shattered, very bad injury. These are the worst places you could have injury, so painful. But kind of luckily protected my hand, elbows protected my head. So I was hospitalized for 2. Actually, Carol has some kind of injury, so we are talking about this. After this, we can commiserate. But anyway, I was hospitalized 2 weeks, and I had operations on my both elbows. Okay, and after the operation, I had 2 large casts here, big one. And I was lying on bed like this, hung. They couldn't use, have intravenous. Usually, you see, you have intravenous here. They cannot use it, So here, this part. So they put that on my leg. But the legs were the only things I could move, so I kicked. So they eventually put this intravenous here, because this is kind of stationary. So that. But anyway, so I know, I looked like a lobster, Some people I never kind of, not intimate, but they are curious, so they came to see me, how I look. So, kind of, I laugh about it, that's terrible, okay? About 2 weeks, I couldn't do anything, okay? I couldn't use both elbows, 2 weeks at all. See, I couldn't eat I couldn't eat myself by myself. See, or wipe my face. I cannot close by myself. So they had to do everything. Nurses and my wife, kind of wiped me or clothed me or fed me with a spoon. See, worse than a baby. So anyway, but through this experience, I learned a lesson, many lessons. But one lesson was my hands were really handy. Hands were, I didn't know that my hands were so handy. But just another lesson I learned. Okay, when I lost the functions of my hands, I realized that many people were actually supporting and helping me. I realized that what my hands, my visible hands could do was so limited. And actually many people's hands, invisible hands, were doing a tremendous work for me. See, before I injured my elbows, I didn't know. I didn't pay any attention to the help all people giving me with their hands. I realized that I had been overestimating the abilities of my hands, my self-power, and neglecting to appreciate other people's hands. Actually, they're the power. Other people's hands were constantly supporting me and enabling me to live. So it was a kind of very humbling experience for me, see, knowing the limitation of what I could do with my hands. But it was, at the same time, a wonderful experience in the sense that we had a new awareness of the existence, again, insight into the existence of the many hands that were supporting and helping me. Okay, now let me talk about another story. Actually, I want to talk about the life of Reverend Junkyouni Oishi. Junkyouni Oishi was a nun, Buddhist nun, belonging to the Shingon school of Buddhism. Junkyouni was born in 1890 and died in 1965. So she passed away about 50 years ago at the age of 75. Her childhood dream was to become a professional performer of Japanese dance. So when she was 17, she started to live in the house of a dance teacher in Kyoto to learn dancing. She was given a name, Tsumakichi, as a novice dancer. Then one night, a tragedy happened. The dance teacher's wife ran away with her boyfriend. Being informed that his wife had run away with her boyfriend, the dance teacher became a madman. He took out a sharp Japanese samurai sword and he started to slash everybody he encountered. First, he attacked and killed his wife's mother. Then he did the same to the wife's brother and sister. Then he attacked the 3 dance students who were in the house at the time. Tsumakichi was one of those 3 dance students. When the bloody cutting and slashing were over, police came, or people found 5 dead bodies that were completely mutilated. And in the pool of blood, they also found the slightly moving body of a girl whose 2 arms were cut off from her shoulders. When a doctor examined her, he said that the girl would not live. But miraculously, this girl did survive. This girl was Tsumakichi, later became Junkyouni. Having lost her arms, Tsumakichi had to give up her desire to become a professional dancer. Her life after that was not the easiest kind of life. She joined a circus. Showing her armless body, she earned her living. She was one of the attractions of the circus because she was known as the only survivor of the famous slaughtering incident in Kyoto. Having experienced many difficulties in her life, Tsumakichi later appreciated the Buddha's teaching and became a Buddhist Buddhist nun. Her name was changed to Junkyo-ni. Here, let me talk about one episode from her life as a Buddhist. One day, Junkyo-ni and her student visited a Buddhist temple in Kyoto. This temple had a Buddha statue that is called Senju Kannon. Okay. Senju Kannon means a Buddha of compassion. Buddha of Senju Kannon, Buddha of compassion. So this Buddha was statue had 1,000 hands, many hands stretching out of his shoulder, and each hand holding all kinds of things like food, medicine, tools, and weapons. When Junkyo-ni and her students came to this statue, they stopped in front of this statue, and Junkyo-ni asked one question to her student. Junkyo-ni asked, do you know what kind of person came up with the idea of creating a Buddha statue like this? Who could start to have, initiate this kind of statue? Do you know what kind of person came up with the idea of creating a statue like this? Then student answered, Sensei, teacher, I don't know. Then Junkyo-ni said, I think the first person who came up with the idea of creating a Buddha statue having 1,000 hands is a person who did not have both hands. Because I don't have both hands, I know very well that so many people have been supporting and helping me with their hands. So I know very well that the Buddha has been supporting and helping me with many hands. So I know who is totally armless, know that the Buddha has 1,000 hands and has been helping me. So I think that only person without hands can know that the Buddha has 1,000 hands and he's helping the person without arms with a 1,000 hands. So I say, she said, so I say that the first person who thought of the statue like this must be a person who didn't have arms, who didn't have hands. Junkyo-ni also said that if someone were to offer a new set of arms in an exchange for her Buddhist faith, she said she would not accept the offer. She said that the Buddhist insight she received thanks to the fact that she didn't have arms was the greatest treasure that cannot be exchanged for anything else. So far I have emphasized one point, that when we have too much of our hands, we cannot appreciate the hands of other people. But when we lose our hands, we come to know the existence of the hand of the people. We can know the existence of the invisible hands that are supporting and helping us. To explain this point, I have talked about my experience and the life of Junkyo-ni. Here I want to finish my talk by emphasizing one more point. The point is that recognition of the other power supporting us does not mean that we don't have to do anything. You know, recognition of other hand supporting us does not mean that we don't have to do anything. If you think that since other power is supporting us, it's all right for us to be lazy, you are wrong. You are wrong. That's not what Buddhism teaches us. To show the point that the recognition of other power makes us have a dynamic and creative life, and doesn't allow us to be a lazy person. I want to talk about another Japanese Buddhist by the name of, he says, Hisako Nakamura. Hisako Nakamura was a contemporary of Junkyonin. When Hisako was 3 years old, she lost all four of her limbs because of frostbite. So just like Junkyonin, Hisako's life was not easy. When Hisako grew up, she worked in a circus too, and she exposed her legless and armless body, and she showed people that she could do everything, like sewing, knitting, cooking, and drawing with her mouth and teeth. Just like Junkyonin, later in her life, Hisako became a Buddhist. Actually, he became a follower of Shinran Shonin, Jodo Shinshu follower. As Hisako grew older, she was deeply grateful to many people for supporting and helping her. She often said, if it were not for the support of so many people, I who do not have 4 limbs would not be living on this earth. Let me talk about one of the statements of Hisako. She said, we are not living by ourselves, but are being enabled to live by others. So we must make efforts as much as possible. She said, we are not living by ourselves, but are being enabled to live by others. So we must make efforts. We must make efforts as much as possible. This statement sounds rather contradictory, don't you think? So she says, we human beings are not living by ourselves, and we are being enabled to live by others. Totally, other people helping. Then it is natural for her to say that we don't have to make efforts, any efforts. Or it's natural for her to say that we just rely on other people's help and do not have to do anything. See? That sounds more logical. But she says that because we are being enabled to live, we have to make efforts as much as possible. Isn't her statement contradictory? It may sound contradictory, but it is not. She's saying this. She's saying that she has to make efforts to repay the tremendous benevolence that she is receiving. She's talking about the efforts to repay the kindness of others, and that the kindness, talking about she has to make efforts to repay the kindness that she is receiving. She's saying that since she is receiving so much from other people, she cannot help making efforts to repay their kindness. She is saying that she cannot just sit still and receive their kindness. This is precisely what Shinran Shonin, the founder of our Buddhist tradition, says in his Ondokusan. See, after this talk, we sing this song called Ondokusan. This is a verse of Shinran Shonin. See, Shinran says exactly the same thing as the Hisako. And let me give you the translation of this song, okay, Ondokusan. It's a verse. It says, to the extent of grinding my body to dust, I must express my gratitude and repay the compassion of Amida Buddha. To the extent of smashing my bones to pieces, I must express my gratitude and repay the benevolence of Shakyamuni Buddha and our teachers. This is the meaning of the song we sing later. Shinran is saying here, since I'm receiving so much from Amida Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, and my teachers, I cannot help repaying their kindness. I said that recognition of the other power supporting us does not mean that we don't have to do anything. It doesn't mean that we stay as a lazy person or a lazy recipient of other power. On the contrary, recognition of the other power, power helping us, make us engage in dynamic activities to repay the kindness that we are receiving. If we know that the other power is supporting us, if we know that so many people are supporting us, we just cannot sit still. We know that if we know that we owe so much to them, we just cannot just sit still. We cannot help making efforts to repay their kindness. That's what Hisako is saying. See, we are not living by ourselves, but are being enabled to live by ourselves. So we must make efforts as much as possible. This afternoon, observing O-Higan service, I've talked about the importance of knowing the emptiness of our hands, the emptiness of the self-power. We must know that we are overestimating the abilities of our hands, self-power. And we must recognize the greatness and the reality of the self-power that is supporting us. Simply because we have too much of our hands, we cannot see the many hands that are supporting us. But when we see the emptiness of our own hands, we can see that many hands, invisible hands, are supporting us. We can see the fact that we are being enabled to live. We are being enabled to live by so many hands. Our teachers such as Shinran Shonin and Junkyo-ni and Hisako teaches this.